the release of the Inspector General's report into the origins of the 2016 FBI investigation into President Trump and members of his campaign. Let's go right to Pete Williams right now. And Pete, some of the early headlines is that this will essentially cancel out some of the complaints about that investigation.
A little bit for everybody to like in this report, Lester. Here it is, 430 pages from the Inspector General of the Justice Department. Has been working on this for almost 2 years now. And what it says is that the Inspector General found no political bias in the FBI, either in the decision to open the investigation of the Trump campaign in 2016 or a couple of months later to seek a surveillance court order from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to essentially do electronic eavesdropping on Carter Page, who had been a Trump advisor. Now, the Attorney General has just issued a statement based on this, saying that he thinks the IG report makes clear that the FBI opened this investigation of a presidential campaign, I'm quoting now, on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken. What the Inspector General says is that the investigation of the Trump campaign was opened based entirely on this claim from an Australian government source that George Papadopoulos, another Trump advisor, had said that he met with some people who said the Russians had dirt that they could offer on Hillary Clinton. Later, the FBI, weeks later, got this so-called Steele dossier, but the Inspector General says that played no role in the FBI's decision to open the investigation. And in fact, the investigation was opened before the FBI got the Steele dossier. The Inspector General report says the FBI followed the rules in opening the investigation, but it says there are no guidelines in the Justice Department or the FBI about opening such a sensitive investigation of a presidential candidate, and perhaps the IG says there should be. It also says the FBI decided not to brief the Trump campaign about this potential threat or the fact that it was opening the investigation. And it did not find any evidence of political bias, despite these well-known by now texts from two people in the FBI, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. It says that they were not high-up decision makers in the decision to open the investigation. We learned for the first time that the FBI used confidential human sources to record conversations with Carter Page, with George Papadopoulos, before and after they were involved in the campaign. And it says these confidential human sources also talked to what is described in this report as a high-level Trump campaign official, not identified, one conversation that apparently the IG says yielded no useful information. Then, after the investigation was open, the FBI decided to seek this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, warrant on Carter Page after getting the Steele dossier. So the Steele dossier was critical, it says, in the FBI's decision to seek this surveillance warrant on Carter Page. But it says the FBI failed to document to the court assertions in the FISA application that undercut Steele's credibility. Steele, it did note that Steele was initially hired to do some opposition research for the Clinton campaign. But as time went on, the report says, even though the FBI got information that would raise questions about the credibility of Steele, it failed to reassess its own reliance on him, failed to tell the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court about these problems, and didn't press him on the source of his information. Nonetheless, it says it found no political bias in seeking the FISA warrant on Page. What it says is the FBI basically repeatedly screwed up at every level, failing to pay enough attention to potential problems with Steele, failing to tell the Justice Department. And it says at one point that the FBI decided to seek this FISA warrant, even at the risk of being criticized for doing it later, because the report says FBI officials said they had to get to the bottom of a potentially serious threat to national security. But the Inspector General report says the FISA application was in many ways inaccurate, incomplete, or unsupported. It says, for example, that the FBI failed to look at some of the problems in Steele's past work, that was never sufficiently addressed. As for why these things happen, the Inspector General says it reaches no conclusions about that. It says it received no satisfactory explanation about how all these mistakes happened. And the Inspector General report, Lester, and I just make the final point here before I turn it back to you, says that the Inspector General is so concerned about these problems that if the FBI, in his view, so mishandled this FISA application for an investigation into a candidate for president, then how is it doing it for garden variety people who are subject to these warrants? And for that reason, we learned today that the Inspector General is now opening a new investigation on how the FBI gets these FISA warrants on American citizens, Lester.
All right. On the questions that we've heard over the last several years from the Trump administration on political bias, on spying, does this report deal directly with whether those two things occurred?
Well, the Inspector General didn't directly answer the question in this report about whether the FBI, quote unquote, spied on the Trump campaign. And that's where I think people will reach different conclusions. Some of the Republican critics of the FBI in the House have repeatedly said this was the case. Nonetheless, the FBI did seek the FISA warrant. They did use confidential human sources. There's no indication in here, for example, to back up the president's claim, now widely discredited, that the FBI was wiretapping his phones. But nonetheless, it does say that there was no political bias either in the decision to open the investigation or in seeking the FISA warrant. And
on the question of whether it was a legitimate case to open, where did the Inspector General come down on that?
What he says is that the FBI, in opening the investigation, followed all the rules, that it's a very low threshold for opening this kind of foreign influence investigation. And on that, the FBI followed all the rules.
All right, Pete, on another note, there is the John Durham investigation, the Attorney General in Connecticut, who was appointed by William Barr. Is that duplicating this work? Is that looking at a different facet of this work?
It is to some extent looking at different facets, and we don't know what the results of his work yet is. Our understanding is that there wasn't much coordination between the Inspector General's work and Durham's work, that they had very little contact is our understanding of how this process worked. Durham is looking at for example, what did foreign country intelligence services have? To what extent was the U.S. intelligence community involved with that? And those were not questions beyond the FBI that this report looked at. Remember, the focus of this report was, did the FBI follow the rules in getting that FISA warrant on Carter Page? The rest of it is a kind of broader sort of surrounding issues, but the main thing was the FISA warrant. And on that, the Inspector General's conclusion was no political bias, but a repeated failure to follow the rules and scrutinize Steele's claims closely enough. Oh, and by the way, the report basically says that despite all this work to get these FISA warrants on Carter Page, they never really yielded very useful information for the Trump investigation.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.